Hello and welcome to the Legal Edition. I'm your host, Attorney Mary Kay Loyan. Today's guest is Dr. Mark Albion. He's Professor of Economics and Marketing at Harvard Business School and is a faculty founder of Net Impact. He has written 7 books and is a New York Times bestselling author. He has also co-founded More Than Money Careers, a Benefit corporation. Dr. Albion holds a joint PhD in Business and Economics at Harvard University and Harvard Business School. Our show topic is Occupying Wall Street from Within, Transformation from Obstructionism to Activism, the movement to reclaim our American values and our economy. This show is about common good and common good investing. It follows Dr. Terry Molnar's show with a 2-part episode. Today, we will expand upon that discussion to explain how positive change can be achieved by educating a new generation of students and business owners, that business can be ethical and can be even more profitable when they choose to be socially responsible. My guest and I will discuss Occupying Wall Street from Within and how the social concept and business model will change the way America does business for good. Welcome, Dr. Albion.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Mary Kay.
Thank you. You know, in Forbes last fall, you discussed the philosophy behind your life's work. Your position is that in order to change Wall Street, you must change it from within. Can you elaborate a little on that,
yeah,
please?
Thank you. And I should say right at the outset that, you know, when you steal from one person, you're a plagiarist. But when you steal from many, you're a researcher. And I steal most of my expressions used from, this one is from Liz Ma, who's our incredible Executive Director, CEO of Net Impact, the organization you mentioned, of MBA professionals trying to make a difference in their careers. And Liz has been there for 10 years as our CEO, Executive Director, and been with us since '99, so thanks to Liz for that. But yeah, the vision we had after I left Harvard Business School in the late '80s was to try to mobilize all these young people who are really, really interested in making a difference, and particularly the ones that businesses most want to have, because we could have them as long as they were sure what their values were, turn their values into values in that company, meaning turning your values into value is what's important in business. Business has to operate in a way of creating more value, and you get more profit, and you have happy stakeholders, shareholders, you know, that sort of thing. And for the students, it was really saying, don't leave your values at home, bring them to work and figure out how they work in the marketplace. So that was really, and so the life philosophy of how to do that was twofold. You could either do it by starting your own schools to try to educate them, because it takes a generation. I had originally worked with senior C-suite executives, and they're already set in their careers. They already have a certain position in the company. They don't really have an opportunity to make these kind of changes. But the new young people coming up do, and we needed to form a community around them to help them do that, so they wouldn't become like I had become, a conflicted achiever. You know, I was I was somebody who went out and did all the right jobs and the Wall Street jobs and all that. And you know, as I say, I climbed the ladder of success wrong by wrong. You know, I realized while that was a great thing to do, it wasn't really fulfilling for me. And about 80% of our students are in that sort of boat, that they've, you know, climbed these ladders, but you got to find out what's right for you. So personally, we're trying to help them be happier, more fulfilled people, and then in that way trying to change the way business is done over the course of a generation.
I see. Now, I know you lecture on More Than Money Careers, and you've written 7 books on that topic. Now, positive change is going to be about finding your place in service. You have written. Can you elaborate more on what is finding your place in service?
Yeah, I mean, really all of our work, this all came out of Social Venture Network, which you mentioned, Terry, and Terry and I have known each other for 30 years through SVN, which started from a group of donuts. Those are young people in the law dough who were sort of nuts because they actually thought business could be used to sort of uplift the human spirit and alleviate poverty and suffering on our planet, which is actually, that one's my actual expression. I didn't steal that one from anybody. It's when I first did it at University of Michigan. But, and so, you know, sort of out of that, you know, this movement, it's really a shifting consciousness movement and focusing on, you know, what all of us want to do, which is we all dream of noble purposes. Everybody does.
Sure.
I want to talk about the writing. I was fortunate enough to write a newsletter, which was the foundation of a book I came out in 2000 called Making a Life, Making a Living. More Than Money is a follow-up to that book. The book was about me leaving Harvard Business School, or as I like to say, striking out for the small time, finding my place of service, knowing that while it was great and my mentor was a wonderful, wonderful guy. He was a Nobel Prize winner, a guy who had all of his values set on the students and research and wasn't blinded by the bright lights of fame or fortune. Yet I didn't really want to sit in that office. I didn't know where I did want to sit, but like I say in some of my writings, you find out where you fit in by not fitting in. So I had to go and try to find my place, and in trying to find my place, my job was to help other people find their place, which is, like students think there's like, all of us think there's like this perfect job. There isn't a perfect job. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You've done this in your own career. You
course.
evolve a life and a job that works for you at that time. So that's what I had to do. And in doing it for myself, why not try to do it for other people whose seats I was sitting in maybe just 10 or 15 years ago. So that was sort of the notion of what I talked about, is that at the individual level, which is at Net Impact and More Than Money Careers, which is a software platform to actually help these people get those social impact jobs, 80% of which are never advertised, by the way, so you have to find them through contacts. The notion was to help everybody find their place of service, and then in serving within an organization, helping the same corporation not just be a producer for consumers, but a citizen on the planet. The great quote from that I'm stealing is from Bart Giamatti, who was a wonderful president of Yale University and he's now passed away, former head of the American League in baseball, thank you, Red Sox. And Dr. Giamatti once said that the purpose of a company is not to be a sanctuary from society, but to be a tributary to society. So that's sort of the consciousness shifting that we're trying to do with our students, and also hopefully within the companies when they become members of those companies.
And I heard you have millions.
We have a lot of people.
A lot.
Yeah, it started slowly. Our first conference at Net Impact, we had 13 people. We have our next U.S. conference next week, or this coming week in a few days in San Jose. I think we kept it down to 3,500. So yeah, it's changed. We have 400 speakers, and Al Gore, you mentioned earlier, we were talking. Al did a great speech for us in 2008 when we were out at Stanford. So. It's been exciting, but it only took 20 years, overnight success.
Well, nothing good happens quickly.
Right, and certainly I was one of many players. It's really the students who really built the organization.
Well, with your guidance, I'm sure. Now, recently you created your own LLC, with the focus being educating people, getting clear, getting connected, and getting hired, to find that impact job that fits one's values, and that you can also, if you can explain a little bit about the fit one's values and getting clear, getting connected, and getting hired.
Sure. In fact, we call it a triple fit. I mean, the sort of basis of this is everybody, and I phrased this years ago for myself, but it's really true today. Everybody sort of says, what I want to do is figure out how I can be a Marxist and still own my own jacuzzi, right? And people say, oh, you're a Marxist? No. The point is, we always have all these values of, how we want to help a friend, or help a small community, or whatever that community may be. And the idea was how to blend that. Well, if you ask most people, what are you really passionate about? They might say golf, but to try to take that and actually put it in a way that you can turn, as I said earlier, turn those values into value is not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not.
And it's a really big sticking point. In fact, my brilliant partner in More Than Money, Dr. Mrimbutla, around whom, and she's originally a neuroscientist turned career coach at Brown and at Indiana universities. I mean, she's the one who's really developed this sort of software platform we have to try to really help you first get clear about what you're passionate about. That's one of the triple fit. About what your skill set is that you're trying to develop and can then contribute to a company. And then thirdly, what kind of culture do you like to work in? Rather than just talking about nonprofit, government, and for-profit, we actually have 7 sectors of the economy. Oh. We have sustainable businesses. We have for-profit social enterprises. We have businesses doing CSR, that dirty word, which, we could talk about CSR. But we have all these different cultures that you have to understand which ones work best for you. So you don't have to select for-profit or nonprofit. We now have blended companies. Or as Mike Porter, an old colleague of mine, who's very business-oriented, very well known in the business world for strategy, Mike just did a TED Talk about 3 days ago and just talked about that, helping society is good business and how it is good business. Don't look at business versus society or versus social problems, but social problems are an opportunity because business generates profit, which keeps it sustainable so you can keep making those different. So we have to help students say, no, I'm interested in sustainable business. Well, what's that mean? We help them drill down and say, maybe from an experience they had, I saw this happen in Japan. I saw sharks having their fins cut off for shark fin soup. I don't want to see that happen. They throw them in the water, they drown. So now you're interested in animal preservation.
Right.
So we help them define that and then help them get connected with people doing that and then teach them how to quack like they quack. Meaning you have to learn the language of that kind of business to be able to get connected well and get jobs.
So integrating all those aspects that you just talked
That's
about.
right. That's right.
It's amazing.
And you can go to the website and it's you can do it for free to start with. You can go through all of this free trials for
and
everybody.
what is the website?
mtmcareers.com.
Okay. Now, recently, it came to my attention you met with former President Bill Clinton of the Clinton Global Initiative. What was the focus of that meeting?
Well, that meeting, it's a very long story, and it shows you how change takes a very long time. But many, many years ago, a friend of mine brought her son to a social venture network, and he was a Brown University student at the time, and I got to know him. And when we came back from the West Coast from the meeting, I drove him to Brown, and we became friendly, and it turned out he ended up working in his father's business, and they were divorced, but still to this very day, extremely close. They still are tremendously respectful of each other, wonderful to see. And anyway, he got involved in his dad's company, and that was a very large company. And that company now owns a business school. It's called Help Business School. Which is right here. It's based out of Boston, but it actually has 5 campuses around the world. And they got involved in creating this prize for student groups that were solving social problems. And this particular year, we had 11,000 entries from around the world.
Wow.
And it was actually, and Roger Berkowitz is one of our judges.
You're
I
kidding.
judged with Roger. I never met him. He's a wonderful guy. We had a Boston group, a Shanghai group, and Abu Dhabi, all around the world. And actually a Boston group won, although they came from McGill University, so it wasn't right here in Boston. And their job was to come up with a business that's now on the ground. They have a whole year. They have mentorship here that basically could end food insecurity, basically hunger, for 20 million people in 5 years.
That's incredible.
And this one had to do with eating insects. I won't get any
No,
close to that.
that's okay.
2.5 billion people eat it. So President Clinton has lent his name, and right before the Clinton Global Initiative helps us give out $1 million prize. They get $1 million. And without a President Clinton doing that, it was a $50,000 prize. So it's a great example how he has used his platform for really a lot of good. And it's just an honor to have him involved in this. So that's what that was about. And that's part of through HALT now is the biggest corporate sponsor of Net Impact. And so they've just been doing a lot of good things. Their main building, EF, is right across from the Museum of Science. A lot of people know it, but they don't know the company. Yeah, in Boston. But they're a global company. So that was really what the meeting was for. It was about giving away $1 million, which President Clinton is kind enough to donate his name and time to do.
That sounds like a great initiative. I also heard you also met with 32 universities, including MIT. What was that one about?
Okay. More Than Money Careers at the moment, actually, since we talked, we're now up to 40. We have 40 university clients. MIT, and it's for our software. So really, one of the problems is that when I started doing my writing, I get about 400 requests every day by young people in 87 countries about their jobs and all this sort. And you can only handle so much. And my partner has a similar situation. And Net Impact, we do a lot of things well, but we still are not doing a great job of taking that inspiration and turning it into perspiration, the real job. We're pretty good at internships, but I think that I could say, but just so you know, Net Impact's its 3rd year of a 10-year strategy to try to help do this. But meeting this woman, Dr. Mrimbutla, who's more knowledgeable about these things than anybody I've ever met, we're really building this little organization around her, and she's gotten us into 40 universities. And in terms of MIT in particular, there's a professor there that we just launched, maybe a month ago, a 2-year study to try to study the effectiveness of our software platform, to listen and to try to make it better and find out what's working and not working, so that in a couple of years we can hopefully have it be even more effective. And again, its ultimate job is really to help educate the young people on an ongoing basis. For example, when you sign up and you do your assessment, you then get individualized Twitter feeds that will tell you about what jobs are opening up in your area, and also what are the trends in your industry. And then also we help you connect to LinkedIn groups that will connect you with people that could possibly hire you for those jobs over the next year or two.
What's interesting about what you said is that 80% of the jobs aren't advertised.
Yeah.
So it's basically using some kind of service or knowing people.
What happens in this world, first of all, this sort of, we'll call it social impact world, going all the way from nonprofits to for-profits. These 4 sectors I started to mention in the middle, they've grown, according to the National U.S. Labor Bureau of Statistics, and Paul Herman, who does he runs HIP Investor in San Francisco, does a lot of research in this area. That area has been growing at 21%. That's where all the job growth is. So, but to find those jobs, as you said quite rightly, Mary Kay, 80% of them are quote unquote hidden, meaning that by the time they appear on a job board, it's for legal reasons. Right. It's been filled. And the reason tends to be, it's sort of like hires like, and like take Coca-Cola. When Coca-Cola opens up a sustainability office and starts really manning it, with different people, they take so-and-so, I know the people, from marketing who's been in the company for 10 years. They take somebody who's running a nonprofit that they know because they've worked with them in a nonprofit partnership.
Right.
They go to people they know that understand the company,
and
the culture.
Philosophy.
Right. So if somebody wants a job like that, if I join, I don't try to email them directly through LinkedIn, but I join a group that they're a part of, and we start sort of having a virtual cup of coffee, and you get to know my name, and then they say, oh, there's no, I'd give Mary Kay, let me ask Mary Kay, she's in this group with, that's the idea, so that before the jobs are ever advertised, they know you and they think of you in that sort of way. And by the way, in general, people spend their time job searching exactly the opposite. They're sending out, resumes, they're, that type of thing. Those things don't
Where
work very
they're
well.
just a needle in a haystack and one name in a pile.
Yeah, we have one slide that we show that all the career centers take, which is basically saying this in a small way, that the way they hire is by people they know, and that's the way they spend their most time. They do use staffing agencies and all that, as you know, for bigger jobs.
Right.
And the way that people, our young people or anybody in mid-career or whatever, look for a job tends to be just the opposite.
Now, through your net impact community, you said you have seen change affected, helping these young learners get these impact jobs to empower them with, social, environmental, what were you just talking about, getting their social and environmental interests lined up with, the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profits. Can you elaborate on how the intricacies of how they can find those jobs with the triple bottom line concepts that they have in mind?
How they act, what sort of process?
Yeah, with the process.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what More Than Money Careers does, is that we realize there is, as you said so well, this 3-stage process. First, getting them clear. Unless I know, when you come to me, if you're very unclear about what you want to do, what kind of skill, like everybody wants to be a leader. You don't get hired to be a leader. You get hired to be a marketing expert, a finance, So what is the skill set you want to bring? As I said, are you comfortable more in a nonprofit environment? A lot of people go there and they're what I call passionate strivers. Remember, we have conflicted achievers like me, and I go to the for-profits, I go to the big companies, I made a lot of money, and then I hit the wall. Then we also have our passionate strivers. They go to a nonprofit, and they love the cause, but they're starving, their boss is an idiot, it's poorly run. There are different kinds of cultures that you can go into, you have to understand that. And then, as I said, there's this issue of what are you passionate about.
Right.
So once they understand that, then what we do with them is through what's called tag crowding. I don't know how technical you want to get, but a number of social media tools. Like, for example, LinkedIn, last I looked, and I could be a little off, they had 1.4 million groups. How do you know which groups to be part of? That's what we do for you. Twitter feeds, you're interested in impact investing, like Terry's work, okay? Do you know we will give you approximately over 120 feeds in impact investing that suit you. We have 162 different impact areas that you get to choose from. And depending on what you choose, we then customize the feeds for you so that you can look through and say, oh, I should connect with this. Oh, I should look here. So the second thing we do is help you get connected and build a tribe.
Okay, so impact, basically, for the viewers, I just want to bring this back again, it's to make a difference. When you say impact, it's to make a difference in these social venues.
Yeah, it's another one of the terrible words like social. It's so broad, et cetera. Just so you know, what is termed impact investing today still remains 1/100th of 1% of all investing. So that's another discussion. So look, you can do impact investing at Goldman Sachs. I mean, they have microfinance, et cetera. So again, it's not to even say, oh, these are good companies, these are bad companies. But we placed a whole number of Stanford MBAs at Walmart in healthcare. Walmart's working very heavily. So it's to have them understand more, not the label, but what it is they're interested in doing. Like, I want to do finance for women in need. And that's where we help plug them in. But you're right, impact investing is just having an impact. What it means, by the way, for those people interested in the investment side, is that impact investors and impact tend to have a longer time horizon.
Yeah, because we want to get into how this is going to change and get into Wall Street and what that's.
I'll give you an example of how it changed. I mean, okay, so we recently had a conference also in Baltimore that I got to be the closing keynote speaker of, and they asked me to spend the 3 days there and listen to what was going on. It was a conference for people who headed up large nonprofits, and everybody who spoke was from a certain size, decent sized firm on Wall Street. 70% of the speakers, I was told at that time, all had been in net impact for at least a couple of years. So they were teaching the nonprofit world about how Wall Street works and how to try to bring those worlds together, and that's part of what we're trying to do as well.
But you had said also that the triple bottom line is not inherently a workable business model because managers have alliances to three gods. You said, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, and I'm sort of stealing a lot of that from Ben Cohen, our wonderful former co-founder, CEO of Ben & Jerry's, who has been a long time inspiration for a lot of us and a friend, even did a little company with him. But anyway, and I remember Ben and I and Amy Dominy, who's also Boston area and has a Dominy Index, which is very famous. We called Amy, she hates it, the godmother of impact investing, really. We were speaking, at McGraw-Hill for a C-level suite executives about the triple bottom line, and Ben did a brilliant job about talking about how it's a great idea, and we don't, but it's unimplementable at the, unless you have more than, unless you have like 5 people in the company, meaning that how do you sit and make decisions every day if they say, okay, you want to maximize, revenues, you also want to maximize a positive social impact and an environmental one. Often in a decision, and I've written a lot about this in my own experiences in my own companies, I started 6 of them, that these things are in conflict. So what really happens with these companies is, first of all, I would argue that profit is not not part of the triple bottom line. Profit is a critical and necessary part. In fact, the most socially irresponsible thing you can do to me is to be financially unsustainable because people lose jobs.
Right.
That's the worst. So a lot of people don't even think of this that way. So to us, that's first of all not a bottom line. That's a means. No margin, no mission. That's a means and a necessary step to having a company. But the purpose of the company should be a betterment of society. Example, Patagonia, started by Yvon Chouinard, who's that reluctant businessman. He just likes to climb mountains and had crappy equipment and wanted to make better ones, okay? But if you really talk to them, they'll say, our #1 goal is not to hurt the planet. Now, within that set, we of course look at finance. We can't go organic tomorrow. These are the numbers.
Right.
But so every one of them that really have a triple bottom line, overriding that is an important social mission that dominates at most times. But having run one of these myself, sometimes you can't do it. Sometimes the numbers don't allow you, but that is your dominant consciousness.
But in the larger corporations, they also have the benefit director who also oversees to make sure that the policies are being followed.
That's right. There's 2, and you know this better than me, being being in the legal profession. But there's a governance set of issues.
Yes.
And this is why the B Corp became so important in some of these bills, because it then allowed you and freed you up as a company to make decisions in a certain way and not in any way encumber or hinder your fiduciary relationships to your stockholders. So there's that, and then there's the daily implementation of programs and how you make those decisions.
Correct, and there's also the third-party B certification process, which comes in and evaluates.
Different with the benefit court, the B Corp actually has a certification. We're an 89. Average is 80. My company's an 89. we're working to get a little higher on that.
Yeah, so, with all those things in place, I would think that that would trickle down to management so that they would make the right decisions.
You would hope. It's a small movement. Those movements have existed, as you may know, in South Africa. We could give you other models of different kinds of stock markets, et cetera. But again, it goes back to that Milton Friedman paper that everybody quotes, the business of business is to make profit. Read that 1970 article. I actually used to have seminars with Milton. We used to do this at MIT with Paul Samuelson. He was a great guy. We might have disagreed with him, but his thinking is bone clear. So unless you have something like a B Corp, which we now have in 20 states, you are prevented from, if you look, this better, the laws of Maryland for corporation are for a sociopath. I mean, there's nothing there that says, go out and here's your No, your responsibility is to, run a good business, return a share to your, your shareholders, blah, blah, blah. The B Corp says, wait a minute, there are other factors involved in running a good corporation and being a good citizen.
And what's great about that, it allows the corporation to benefit others and not breach any fiduciary duty, which is very, very important.
Right. We probably don't have time, but I have an incredible story of a large company that the CEO, who had been groomed his whole life, quit because of this issue. He went on CNBC to talk about great programs. His quarterly results came out that same day, and they were a penny below expectations, and all they talked about was the penny. And his comment to me afterwards, not publicly, was, oh, I get it. So if we go and do things for those in need, if we try to build communities, we try to save our environment, but it costs 1 penny, can't do it. So this allows you to do that.
But on the flip side of that, when they don't do it, and for instance, if there's a car part that is, not exactly made to spec, they'll be paying out millions in lawyers' fees.
Well, and I think that's Mike Porter's point. And for people who don't know Michael is not this social. He's a business guy. And I know him extremely well from my years at Harvard with him. And his new TED Talk, go look at it. I just saw it yesterday. It's this whole shared value thing he did with Mark Kramer, which has become very well known. And it's this notion of, look at, these are integrated. Profit's good for society too. It's all what you do with it, now you make it, right? So I think there really is becoming a sea change. A lot of us, the first wave of this was in the 80s. We're in the third wave of the movement, and it's starting to get more mainstream. That's why we're trying to occupy Wall Street from within.
Okay, there is evidence that socially responsible corporations are more profitable, and because the goodwill established makes people want to purchase from them. I think we see this all the time. How can we make this social responsibility a lifelong practice integrated into the business model that is adopted by mainstream business and Wall Street? Right. And how do we get these people in there and make it all work?
Right. I think that, there's a couple of things. One is just opening up, and this is a work I've done over the years, not so much anymore, but used to do, is just opening up the possibilities to people. A lot of people just don't know. A lot of executives just don't know the possibilities to do it. And secondly, as we say to the students, you have to make the business case. Even getting a job, you say your job isn't to be so productive. Your job is to make your boss look good, make your boss more productive. And it's the same thing here. If you're trying to sell this, let's say, to a company, it has to be in their interest. Billy Shore, who runs Share Our Strength, that did the American Express charge for hunger and all that, has a wonderful quote. He says, all altruism is based in self-interest. So you must appeal to self-interest. And then thirdly, what's so critical is that what you can do here is be innovative. Every company wants to be innovative. So I could give a lot of examples, we don't have time, of companies that have addressed social issues in ways that were innovative and sparked innovation, whether it's creating an iPhone or whatever it may be.
So basically, if we get all these people from the net impact people, the socially responsible people, and those people that really care, we get them to work in Wall Street through the net impact area, we can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Mary Kay.
You're welcome.
Enjoyed.
I want to thank our guest, Dr. Mark Albion of Net Impact and More Than Money Careers. I'd also like to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions for either myself or our guests, please visit our website, thelegaledition.com, to contact us with your question or comment, and for more information on topics discussed today. And please remember, this information is for informational purposes only. It is not to be relied on as business or legal advice. Please seek the guidance of a qualified legal or business professional for your particular business or legal needs. And again, we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for being here. We'll see you on The Legal Edition.